Thousands of motorcycles, brand new, untouched, and no one's buying. The industry that once roared with rebellion is now gasping for air. Harley, Honda, BMW. They're all slashing prices, halting production, and praying someone walks through the door. So what just happened to the motorcycle market in 2025? And why is it falling apart faster than anyone imagined? Stick around, because this crash is way worse than you think. What's happening? For decades, bikes would move off the floor within days or weeks. Now, some have sat for over 200 days with not a single serious buyer. From Harley-Davidson cruisers to BMW touring machines, unsold inventory is piling up at a pace no one anticipated. This isn't just a supply chain glitch, it's a full-blown collapse in demand. And the numbers are shocking. Dealerships are reporting year-over-year sales declines of up to 30%. Brands like Honda, Yamaha, and even Indian are offering unprecedented markdowns, sometimes cutting prices by as much as $5,000 just to clear stock. But even with these deep discounts, buyers are hesitant. Financing is harder to secure, and consumer confidence is eroding fast. So how did we get here? In the wake of the pandemic, motorcycle sales surged. People sought freedom, open roads, and solo adventure. Manufacturers interpreted that spike as a permanent trend. They ramped up production, expanded model lines, and raised prices, assuming demand would keep growing. But it was an illusion. The moment economic conditions tightened, with inflation, rising rates, and shaky consumer sentiment, that demand vanished almost overnight. Now manufacturers are stuck with bloated inventories and dealerships are drowning in bikes no one wants. This is not a cyclical slump. It's a structural meltdown. The motorcycle industry is not just facing a tough year, it's confronting a historic collapse that may redefine how bikes are built, sold, and financed for the next decade. And a major reason for that collapse? The price of motorcycles has spiraled out of control, from inflation to implosion. In just 5 years, the average bike price jumped by over 40%. Riders are done paying for it. What used to be considered a working-class escape has become a luxury item. A Harley-Davidson Street Glide that cost around $22,000 in 2019 is now pushing $35,000. Entry-level bikes that once served as stepping stones for new riders like the Yamaha MT Series or the Honda Rebel have crept toward the $15,000 mark. Inflation played a role, sure, but the real issue was strategy. Manufacturers leaned hard into premiumization, betting that consumers would keep shelling out more money for the same bikes dressed up with extra tech, touchscreen interfaces, and minor cosmetic updates. But riders have had enough. At a time when rent, groceries, and fuel costs are soaring, dropping 30 grand on a motorcycle feels absurd, especially when the ride experience hasn't fundamentally changed. Consumers are smarter than ever, and they're pushing back. Many are opting to hold on to their existing bikes longer. Others are turning to the used market, and some are walking away from riding altogether. The problem isn't just price, it's value. Riders no longer feel that they're getting more for their money. Instead, they're seeing flashier marketing attached to machines that don't deliver a compelling reason to upgrade. Worse, in some cases, new models have actually taken steps backward in comfort or performance, prioritizing emissions compliance or tech gimmicks over the raw experience riders crave. And let's be honest, for many, motorcycles were already a tough sell financially. They're not a necessity. They're a lifestyle. Once the cost starts approaching that of a brand new car, most buyers pause. Now they're stopping entirely. But even if you do want to buy a bike today, there's another roadblock standing in your way. Financing just got brutal. It used to be that you could finance a bike for 3%. Now you're lucky to get approved at all. Motorcycle loans have become a minefield. In 2019, buyers could often secure financing at 3 to 5% interest. Today, that rate has ballooned to anywhere from 9% to 18% depending on your credit score. For a $30,000 bike, that could mean an extra $10,000 in interest over the life of the loan. And for those with less than stellar credit, the message from lenders is loud and clear. You're too risky. Loan rejection rates are spiking. According to several financing firms, as many as 1 in 5 applications are now being denied outright. Even well-qualified buyers are facing tougher approval processes, stricter income verification, and larger down payment requirements. What was once a gateway to ownership has become a wall. This credit tightening isn't limited to motorcycles. It's part of a broader economic shift. Banks are being more cautious, especially with non-essential loans. And in the eyes of financial institutions, motorcycles fall squarely into the luxury category. Combine that with rising insurance premiums, which have nearly doubled in some U.S. states, and the dream of two-wheel freedom is slipping out of reach for many. The result? Dealerships are seeing more potential buyers walk in, run the numbers, and walk right back out. No matter how deep the discounts go, if financing is unaffordable or unavailable, the sale doesn't happen. And if you think dealerships are in trouble now, wait until you see what happens when the financial backbone of the business starts to crack. Dealers are bleeding out. Every day, another dealership shuts its doors for good. Across the United States, small independent motorcycle dealerships are quietly vanishing from the map. For decades, these locally owned businesses were the heart and soul of the motorcycling community. Family-run shops where generations of riders bought their first bike, shared stories, and stayed loyal. But in 2025, these same businesses are collapsing under the weight of economic pressure that few saw coming and even fewer can escape. The biggest problem? Inventory. Dealerships are overflowing with unsold bikes, Harley-Davidsons, Yamahas, Kawasaki's, all sitting motionless on polished concrete floors, gathering dust while the floor plan interest charges pile up. These dealerships don't own the bikes outright. Instead, they finance them using short-term commercial loans known as floor plan financing. Every day a bike sits unsold, it costs the dealer money. Multiply that across 50 or 100 units and you have a ticking financial time bomb. But it is not just about the bikes that won't sell. Overhead costs, rent, utilities, staff salaries, insurance continue to rise while foot traffic plummets. Riders are not walking in, and even when they do, they're hesitant to buy. Many want to wait out the crash, hoping for further price drops or better financing conditions. Others are turning to private sales or online marketplaces, cutting dealerships out entirely. Meanwhile, the larger corporate-owned dealerships are weathering the storm, not because they are smarter, but because they have the financial backing to absorb short-term losses. They can take the hit. Independent shops cannot. They rely on volume, quick turnover, and customer loyalty. But in a year like 2025, those lifelines have dried up, and as more local shops close, entire regions are losing access to service, parts, and the kind of community that made motorcycling more than just transportation. This matters, because once these dealers are gone, they are not coming back. The loss is not just financial, it is cultural. The disappearance of independent dealerships is reshaping how bikes will be bought, sold, and experienced in the future. And the collapse of dealerships is only the beginning. The used market, once a reliable safety net, is now unraveling faster than anyone expected. The used market meltdown. Your trade-in just lost 30% of its value overnight. The used motorcycle market has always been the backbone of the industry. It is where new riders cut their teeth and seasoned ones find their next project or second bike. But in 2025, that entire ecosystem is in freefall. The crash began with repossessions. Thousands of bikes seized from owners unable to keep up with rising payments and insurance costs are flooding auctions and wholesale lots. This sudden surge in supply is collapsing trade-in values. A bike that was worth $12,000 last year is now fetching barely $8,000. And it's not stopping there. Dealerships already drowning in unsold new inventory are refusing to accept trade-ins. Why would they? They cannot move the bikes they already have, and the last thing they need is more depreciating metal on the lot. For riders, this creates a nightmare scenario. They cannot upgrade to a new bike because their current one is worth far less than what they still owe. They are underwater and stuck. At the same time, buyers are flocking to the used market, but they are not walking into showrooms. They are scouring Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, and peer-to-peer apps for deals. It's a buyer's market, and everyone knows it. Private sellers are slashing prices just to get rid of bikes before values fall even further. The irony? Even with prices dropping, new bike sales are not benefiting. In fact, the used market meltdown is dragging the entire industry down. If buyers can get a low-mileage cruiser or sport bike for 30 to 40% less than new, why bother with a showroom model, especially when the financing and insurance costs are so much higher? The used market, once a pressure release valve for the industry, is now a vacuum, sucking energy, buyers, and liquidity away from new sales. And behind it all is one driving force: the repo crisis. Repo man apocalypse. Repossessions are at the highest level since the 2008 crash and still climbing. It started slowly, a few missed payments here and there, a couple of bikes disappearing from driveways in the middle of the night. But by mid-2025, repossession trucks were a daily presence at dealerships and auctions across the country. Motorcycle repos are up nearly 30% year over year, and there is no sign of the trend slowing. At the heart of this surge is the financing bubble created in the years after the pandemic. Manufacturers and lenders eager to boost sales offered ultra-low rates and extended terms to buyers with questionable credit. Riders who should have bought used bikes or waited altogether were suddenly walking away with $25,000 cruisers, locked into 7-year loans at unsustainable interest rates. Now, with rates rising and inflation squeezing household budgets, those same buyers are defaulting en masse. For lenders, repossessions are a financial headache. Each seized bike must be inspected, cleaned, stored, and sold, usually at a loss. For dealerships, it means even more inventory that no one wants. For owners, the emotional toll is brutal. A motorcycle is not just a vehicle. It is often a passion, a lifestyle. Losing it can feel like losing part of your identity. This wave of repos is not only flooding the used market, it is also pushing down values and scaring away potential buyers. No one wants to buy into a collapsing asset class. And the harder it becomes to resell repossessed bikes, the more cautious lenders become, further tightening credit and locking out future buyers. In short, the repo crisis is not just a symptom of the crash, it is a catalyst, accelerating the downturn across every corner of the motorcycle economy. And at the root of it all lies one overlooked but devastating mechanism: the floor plan financing time bomb. The floor plan time bomb. Dealers don't own those bikes. They're paying interest every single day they sit. It's one of the industry's best-kept secrets. Most motorcycles on showroom floors are not owned by the dealers who display them. They are financed through short-term loans known as floor plan arrangements. These loans allow dealers to stock inventory they otherwise couldn't afford, but they come with a catch: interest accrues daily on every unsold unit. In good times, floor plan financing is manageable. Bikes sell fast, interest is low, and the dealer moves metal before costs spiral. But in 2025, nothing is selling. And interest rates, they've more than doubled since 2019. Now each bike sitting on the floor becomes a liability, a debt that grows with every passing day. This creates a brutal catch-22. Dealers need bikes to attract customers, but the more bikes they carry, the deeper into debt they fall. The longer those bikes sit unsold, the more floor plan interest they accrue, until it eats into every penny of potential profit. And when margins vanish, so does survival. Some dealers are trying to escape the trap by sending inventory back to manufacturers or begging for payment extensions. Others are dumping bikes at a loss, anything to get the loans off the books. But for many, it is already too late. The debt is piled too high, the interest too aggressive. One missed payment leads to another. Lines of credit dry up, and soon the lights go out. Floor plan financing was meant to power growth. But in this crash, it is doing the opposite. It is suffocating dealers, fueling desperation, and pushing even the most established shops into bankruptcy. And here's the kicker. This is not just a temporary glitch, it is a systemic failure baked into the way the industry operates. Unless manufacturers, lenders, and dealers reinvent the model, the time bomb will keep ticking until it wipes out what's left of the old motorcycle economy. The motorcycle market isn't just crashing, it's structurally collapsing. And what's coming next might be even worse. The worst-selling bikes of 2025. These are the models no one wants, even with thousands in discounts. That is not an exaggeration. From Harley-Davidson to Ducati, brands have poured millions into models that now sit motionless in dusty showrooms, collecting interest and resentment. What were once hyped as flagships are now the industry's biggest liabilities. The Harley-Davidson Livewire leads the pack of flops. Priced above $22,000, it was meant to be the brand's electric future. Instead, it alienated loyal Harley riders and failed to win over younger, eco-conscious buyers. Its limited range, high cost, and loss of Harley's signature rumble turned it into a misfire from every direction. Reports show inventory sitting unsold for over 300 days. Then there's the Indian challenger Dark Horse. Pitched as a premium American cruiser to rival Harley's Road Glide, it came with a near $28,000 price tag. While it had impressive specs on paper, it never managed to carve out an identity of its own. Customers either went back to Harley or downmarket to cheaper cruisers. With inventory aging past 260 days, it's become a high-stakes embarrassment for Indian. Sport bikes have not fared any better. The Kawasaki Ninja H2 SX SE, a $27,500 supercharged machine, is gathering dust. Despite its engineering brilliance, it proved too niche, too expensive, and too difficult to insure and maintain. Similarly, the Suzuki GSX-R 1000R has become outdated. It once ruled the track, but now looks and feels like a relic among modern tech-savvy competitors. Electric scooters have also failed to take off. BMW's CE04, a futuristic-looking electric scooter priced around $12,000, never resonated with buyers. In urban markets where EVs should thrive, it was seen as too expensive, underpowered, and awkwardly styled. Its average time on the showroom floor now exceeds 290 days. Ducati's Panigale 5.2, priced at over $17,000, is another example of pricing out a core audience. Combined with high insurance and maintenance cost, its sales stalled completely. And the Triumph Rocket 3 GT, while boasting the world's largest production motorcycle engine, is simply too much bike for too many people. With a price tag nearing $24,000 and a curb weight that intimidates new riders, demand has dried up. What these models all share is a fatal miscalculation. They were built for a buyer who either no longer exists or never existed at all. They tried to blend premium price tags with narrow appeal. The result? A graveyard of inventory no one wants to touch. Even traditional manufacturing is grinding to a halt. Production has stopped. Literally. Harley, Honda, and BMW are slamming the brakes hard. With unsold inventory clogging dealerships and consumer demand in freefall, manufacturers have been forced to take drastic action. The result? Production lines are being idled, factories scaled down, and future innovation put on hold. Harley-Davidson cut its production by 25% in early 2025. What was once a proud symbol of American manufacturing has now become a cautionary tale of oversupply and overconfidence. Its York, Pennsylvania facility has moved to a 4-day work week, and whispers of temporary shutdowns are spreading. Honda, one of the most stable players in the game, is also retrenching. Factories in Japan and Thailand have laid off hundreds of workers, while North American output has been reduced across all major models. Research and development departments have frozen projects, and model updates for 2026 have been delayed indefinitely. BMW Motorrad, once a fast-growing global force, has reduced output by nearly 25% compared to prior years. Assembly lines in Berlin have slowed, and the company has shifted its focus from growth to survival. Supply chain disruptions continue to haunt every step of production. The rising cost of raw materials, ongoing tariff wars, and skyrocketing shipping expenses have made manufacturing more expensive than ever. But with buyers evaporating, brands cannot raise prices to cover the gap, leaving them no choice but to slash output. And the consequences extend beyond bikes. Factory closures are triggering regional job losses. communities that depended on motorcycle production are facing rising unemployment. Dealerships already on life support are now receiving fewer bikes and still cannot sell the ones they have. The dream of constant innovation, of flashy unveilings and tech-driven product cycles has been frozen. The industry is in survival mode, and it is not just about production cuts, it is about something deeper: the brand identity crisis. Manufacturers stopped selling freedom and started selling spreadsheets. For decades, the motorcycle world thrived on emotion, open roads, rebellion, community. But somewhere along the way, the soul of the industry got buried under marketing decks, ESG goals, and boardroom agendas. Harley-Davidson, once a brand synonymous with anti-establishment grit, spent recent years pivoting toward corporate activism, electric mobility, and shareholder-first decisions. While none of these moves were inherently wrong, they were fundamentally out of sync with Harley's legacy. The result? A branding identity that no longer spoke to its core audience. Indian Motorcycles attempted to blend modern performance with heritage, but its marketing lacked clarity. Was it chasing Harley's image or trying to be something new? The confusion left many longtime riders feeling uncertain and uninterested. European brands like BMW and Ducati leaned into luxury positioning. They pushed high-tech dashboards, eco-messaging, and premium pricing. But this shift often felt disconnected from riders who just wanted great bikes without corporate overtones. The cultural clash was real. Riders who once defined themselves by what they rode now struggle to find a bike that reflects their identity. A motorcycle is not just transportation, it is an extension of the self. And when brands lose sight of that truth, they lose their riders. In trying to be everything to everyone, many brands became nothing to anyone. And that is the real crisis. It is not just financial, it is cultural. The industry forgot who it was riding with. And this isn't the first time the industry hit a wall. Lessons from the last crash. 2008 nearly killed the motorcycle industry, but 2025 might finish the job. The last major collapse taught the industry hard lessons, but not all of them were learned. The financial crash of 2008 forced riders to cut spending, cancel purchases, and hold on to their bikes longer than ever before. Sales plummeted, inventory ballooned. Sound familiar? But what saved some brands back then was their ability to pivot. Honda and Kawasaki responded by introducing smaller, more affordable motorcycles that met buyers where they were financially. Honda's CBR 250R and Kawasaki's Ninja 300 were modest in power but rich in value, and they sold in droves. These bikes weren't glamorous, but they were accessible, and that accessibility saved them. Meanwhile, brands that failed to adjust paid the price. Buell, once Harley-Davidson's experimental sport bike division, was shut down during the recession. Victory, despite its potential, was eventually axed by Polaris in favor of a reinvestment into Indian. These casualties weren't the result of bad machines. They were the result of brands that could not shift fast enough or connect with a struggling customer base. What does that mean for today? The same factors are at play: inflated pricing, declining demand, and economic uncertainty. But this time, there's an even more dangerous element at work: a generational drift. If brands cannot capture new riders quickly, they may not survive long enough to try again. And as the industry gets leaner, one thing becomes clear: motorcycling in 2030 won't look anything like it does today. What motorcycling will look like in 2030? The next motorcycle boom won't be loud, fast, or gas-powered. It will be quiet, urban, and digitally connected. The freedom machines of the 20th century are being replaced by practical two-wheel mobility solutions that are built less for lifestyle and more for logistics. Urbanization is driving this shift. As cities become denser, parking scarcer, and emissions regulations stricter, the appeal of the big V twin cruiser fades. Instead, e-scooters, lightweight electric commuters, and app-connected micro-mobility platforms are on the rise. These are not your father's motorcycles, and that's the point. Ownership itself is also changing. The younger generation is embracing subscription-based access models, ride-sharing services, and short-term leasing options over long-term ownership. For many, the idea of spending $30,000 on a motorcycle they'll use on weekends is laughable. Convenience and flexibility now outrank passion and performance. Even the design philosophy is evolving. Brands targeting Generation Z are focusing on minimalist, digitally integrated bikes with mobile app interfaces, built-in GPS, and software-based customization. Companies like Super Soco, NIU, and other upstarts are quietly building a new two-wheel culture, one based not on rebellion, but relevance. This transformation may sound bleak to traditionalists, but it also presents opportunity. If legacy brands like Honda, Yamaha, and Royal Enfield can evolve without abandoning their roots, they may still lead the charge. But they must move fast. And while the industry adapts, riders themselves face a difficult question. Is now the time to buy, sell, or sit tight? But before we give you the answer, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this video so far. Should you buy, sell, or wait? Is now the best deal you'll ever get, or the biggest mistake you'll ever make? With the market in freefall, riders and enthusiasts are stuck in a brutal dilemma. Prices are dropping fast. Inventory is everywhere, but the risks are just as high as the rewards. If you're looking to buy, it depends on your timeline. Some dealerships are already offering $5,000 discounts, 0% financing for 36 months, and aggressive trade-in bonuses just to clear inventory. If you can find the right deal and you plan to keep the bike long-term, this might be the perfect moment. But if your credit isn't perfect or you're planning to resell in the next year or two, wait. Loan rejection rates are climbing, insurance premiums are up, and resale values are still dropping. A bike bought today could be worth 20 to 30% less in just 12 months. That's a brutal hit for short-term buyers. If you're trying to sell your motorcycle, sell it now. The flood of repossessed bikes hitting the used market is driving prices down by the week. The longer you wait, the more value you lose. Even if it means selling below your target price today, it may still be better than waiting until values collapse further. The 2025 motorcycle crash is far from over, but with the right strategy, the smart buyer can still come out ahead. The old rules are gone. The road ahead is rough. But if you're paying attention, you can still ride it your way. The crash is here, and it's only getting worse. What are you seeing in your area? Drop a comment below. I want to hear from real riders.